Force of friction or frictional force. Roll a rubber ball on the ground. After some time, what you observe? It will stop. Similarly, when you stop pedaling a cycle, after some time it will come to rest. It is easy to move a vehicle on a smooth road compared to on an irregular road. It is easy to write on a rough paper compared to a smooth paper. In all these cases, what you are observing? Suppose we consider the example of rubber ball. It stops after traveling a certain distance. Even in case of bicycle, it slows down and then it stops. In both the cases, we can understand a force is acting opposite to the motion which makes the body to stop. Already we know that to stop a moving body, we require a force. In these two cases also, a force is acting which stops the moving bodies, and this force is called force of friction. And as explained earlier, this is a consequential force. It is produced when an object moves in contact with other object. And in these two examples, the surface of the ball or bicycle are in contact with the surface of the earth. A force which acts at the surface of contact when one body moves over another body is called force of friction. Now the question is, what is the reason for the friction? Suppose we consider an example. A car is moving on a smooth road, another car is moving on an irregular road. In which case it is difficult? When the car is moving on an irregular road, it is difficult to move the car. Here we can understand the frictional force is more in case of irregular road. Similarly, you consider a smooth surface. When you place an object on this smooth surface, easily it can slide. If this is a rough surface, yes, it cannot easily slide. Hence, the roughness is the main cause for the frictional force. Not only the roughness means the irregularities present on the surface. Even though a surface may appear smooth, under a microscopic view, you can find some irregularities on the surface. These irregularities causes friction. Not only these irregularities, the forces between the molecules of these two substances can also cause the friction. And simply we can say frictional force is a force which opposes the relative motion between two bodies when one body is sliding over other body. Now what are effects of friction? The first thing is friction opposes the motion. Already in above examples, we have seen that the frictional force is opposing the motion of the body and tries to stop the body. The second thing is friction produces heat. Rub your hands, then you can feel some warmness in your hands. Due to rubbing, because of friction, a heat will be developed. Similarly, rub a stone on the floor and after some time you touch it. What you can observe? The stone gets heat. You feel very hot, and it is because of force of friction between the surface and the stone. Similarly, the caveman produces fire by rubbing dry wooden sticks with a dry wooden block. Even in case of matchsticks, you can observe because of the friction, the fire is produced. And another effect of friction is friction causes wear and tear. You compare a new tire and a old tire of a vehicle. Then what you can observe? The old tire of the vehicle wear out due to friction. And compare the sole of a new shoe and an old shoe. Here also you can observe that the sole is weared out because of friction. That means friction is a force which opposes the relative motion between two surfaces. Friction produces the heat, and because of friction, the wear and tear can occur. We can say these are the disadvantages due to friction. And due to frictional force, the speed of the vehicles are decreased, the engine takes more fuel, the mechanical advantage of the engines is decreased, and wearing tearing occurs, unnecessary heat produces. This may cause the damage of machinery parts. Now the question is, can you find any advantages of friction? Yes, friction is a necessity thing in our daily life. You imagine, without friction, can you walk? No, you can't walk without friction. When you are walking on the ground, a force of friction is acting between your foot and the ground. And this force of friction helps you to push the ground backward. And due to this, you can move in forward direction. That's the reason you cannot walk easily on a smooth surface. Suppose on a surface oil is there. Can you walk freely on this surface? No. What happens? You will fall. And for the same reason that the tires of different kinds of vehicles are provided with deep grooves so that they offer large friction with the surface of the road and do not slip. And it is for the same reason the knot from silk thread slips easily, but not from jute thread, because jute offers more friction than silk. And it is the force of friction which holds nails and screws in the wooden furniture. And without friction, we cannot construct the buildings. And because of friction only, we can place one brick on another brick. And it is the force of friction which saves us from the impact of meteors coming from the space. When the meteor enters into Earth's atmosphere, due to force of friction between atmosphere and meteor, heat will be generated, and because of this heat, it will burn before reaching the ground. And without friction, you cannot apply the brakes. Moving vehicles such as bicycles, cars, scooters, etc., are stopped due to force of friction between the brake shoes against the moving wheel rims. The writing on a paper with a pencil or ball pen is possible on account of friction, because it does not allow the pencil or ball pen to slip on the paper. These are all the advantages of the friction. Already we discussed the disadvantages of the friction. The disadvantages of friction are: friction wears out the tires of all kinds of vehicles. Thus, the tires need replacement from time to time. Friction wears out the moving parts of the machinery, and friction of force increases the weight of the objects. Thus, we have to spend a lot of energy to move heavy objects such as trucks and railway wagons loaded with different kinds of materials. Thus, in a way, a lot of fuel is wasted in overcoming friction, which in turn increases the expenditure on transportation. That means friction is a necessity thing as well as it is like an evil. Therefore, where we require the friction, there we try to increase it. Suppose you want to hold a pen, you require friction. Suppose you want to write something on a paper, you require friction. If an vehicle is moving on an inclined plane, when it is moving up, the friction is required. In all these cases, we try to create the friction. And in some cases, friction is unnecessary. In these cases, we try to reduce the friction. Now, the different methods to reduce the friction. Already we know that the friction is due to the irregularities present on the surface. If you polish them, then what happens? The irregularities will disappear and friction will decrease. That means by polishing the surface, you can reduce the friction. For example, carom boards are highly polished so as to reduce the friction. The other method to reduce the friction is using lubricants, that is, by oiling or greasing the moving parts of machinery. Friction can be considerably reduced. On an irregular surface, when you apply a lubricant, the lubricant fills the irregularities. A smooth layer will be formed on the surface. On that, another body can easily slide. Friction can be reduced by providing wheels. Why? Because the rolling friction is less compared to sliding friction. For example, a suitcase, if you drag on the floor, it will offer a large amount of friction. However, if wheels are provided to it, a very small amount of force is required to move it. The reason is because of these wheels, the friction is reduced. And another method to reduce the friction is using ball bearings. And these ball bearings are arranged between two sliding surfaces so that the sliding friction is converted into a rolling friction and the frictional force will be reduced. And ball bearing consists of small steel balls. When these steel balls are placed between two cylindrical moving surfaces, they reduces friction considerably. Ball bearings are commonly used in bicycles, scooters, cars, trucks, electric motors, etc. And another method of reducing friction is streamlining. And streamlining is a special design to reduce air friction. The shape is called aerodynamic shape. If you carefully look at a fish or a bird in flight, you will notice that their bodies are narrow in front and then gradually broaden till they again become narrow at the tail. And this kind of shape is called streamlined shape. And this shape offers the minimum force of friction in air or water and hence helps the fish or bird to move faster. And when an object is shaped in such a way, it offers minimum friction in air or water. And the shape of object is said to be streamlined. For example, you take the shape of aeroplane. The design of aeroplane is such that it reduces the frictional force due to air. And the shape of ships and boats. This also reduces the resistance force due to water. And sports cars, rockets, all these are having aerodynamic shape. And these are the methods to reduce the friction. That means the friction can be reduced by polishing the surface, by applying lubricants, by using ball bearings and by using streamlined shape. Now how you can increase the friction? Friction is having advantages and disadvantages. Where you require the friction, you have to increase the friction. Where friction is not necessary, you have to reduce the friction. Now what are the methods to increase the friction? If you observe the tires of all kinds of vehicles are provided with deep grooves so as to increase the friction. This prevents the vehicles from skidding on wet roads and at sharp turns. Have you observed the sole of shoes of an athlete or a player? What you can observe? They are provided with spikes and grooves. They increases the friction and they prevent slipping. And industrial belts are provided with rough surfaces so as to increase the friction. Without these belts, you cannot transfer the power from one place to another place. And the rough surface of these belts prevents the belts from slipping over moving iron pulleys. And grinding stones of 4 mills have rough surface. This increases friction and helps in fine grinding of the grain. These are the methods of increasing friction.